You already know how this one ends. Red Lobster, the biggest seafood chain on Earth, got killed by all-you-can-eat shrimp. Everybody knows that story. A guy walks in, orders $20 of endless shrimp, eats $40 of shrimp, and does it a few million times until the whole company falls over. Cute story. It's also wrong, because the shrimp didn't kill Red Lobster. The shrimp was the knife. The company had been quietly bleeding out for 9 years before a single one of those plates ever hit a table. Here's the part nobody says out loud, and it's the whole video. The most famous business death in America wasn't an accident. On every single one of those endless shrimp plates, somebody made money. It just wasn't Red Lobster. 2 different owners looted this company 2 different ways, and the shrimp was only the second one. So let's do the autopsy properly. Not the customers ate too much. Who actually held the knife? One rule before we start, because it's the entire case. When the people who own a company make more money from it losing than from it winning, the company is already dead. It just hasn't been told yet. That's the trap Red Lobster walked into. Twice. And I want you to hold one question the whole way down, because everything hangs on it. If it wasn't the shrimp, what was already killing this thing before dinner even started? Keep that open. We'll close it right at the end, and the answer is worse than they ordered too much shrimp. Welcome to the arena. Let's start where every crash starts. Right at the top. 1968. Lakeland, Florida. A man named Bill Darden opens a seafood restaurant. And here's your first curiosity. Darden had opened his first eatery at 19, and he called it the Green Frog. The man who built the biggest seafood empire in the world started with a diner named after an amphibian. He calls the new one Red Lobster. And it works. Fast. So fast that in 1970, the giant cereal company General Mills, the Cheerios people, buys it. Their first ever restaurant. They pour cereal money into it, and Red Lobster goes national. By 1995, General Mills spins the restaurants off into their own company, Darden Restaurants, named after Bill. And under Darden, Red Lobster hits the number that matters for this whole story. More than 700 restaurants across the United States and Canada. Personify that for a second. 700 buildings. Cheddar Bay biscuits in all 50 states. For an entire generation of Americans, we're going to Red Lobster meant something. Birthdays, anniversaries, the fancy-ish dinner you could actually afford. This wasn't a struggling brand. This was an institution that owned its own real estate and printed money on shrimp for 30 years. Which is exactly what made it worth killing. Because in 2014, the people who ran Darden looked at Red Lobster, the slowest growing brand in their portfolio, and decided to sell it. And who they sold it to is where the bleeding starts. 2014, Golden Gate Capital, a private equity firm, buys Red Lobster for $2.1 billion. The deal closes that July. On paper, a beloved American brand gets a rich new owner. Happy ending. Except, watch the hands. Because this is the trick, and if you've never seen it done, it's genuinely beautiful in the way a magic trick is beautiful, right before you realize your wallet is gone. Here's the move. Golden Gate didn't really pay $2.1 billion out of its own pocket. The day it took over, it turned around and sold off Red Lobster's real estate, the actual land and buildings under more than 500 restaurants, to a property company for about $1.5 billion. And that $1.5 billion, it did not go into Red Lobster. It went to Golden Gate to help pay for buying Red Lobster in the first place. Read that again slowly, because it's the single most important sentence in this whole collapse. Red Lobster was bought using Red Lobster's own buildings. The company essentially paid for its own acquisition and got nothing for it. But, and here's where clever finance turns into slow poison, a company that just sold all its buildings still needs to, be inside those buildings. It's a restaurant, So now Red Lobster has to rent the very stores it used to own. Therefore, the anvil. The rent bill on those buildings started at around $120 million a year, and the leases were written to climb 2% every single year, forever, at rates set above what the market actually charged. Personify it. Imagine you own your house outright. No mortgage. And someone convinces you to sell it, hand them the cash, and then pay them rent to keep living in your own kitchen. Rent that goes up every year whether business is good or bad. You didn't get richer. You got a landlord you can never leave. That's what got done to Red Lobster in 2014. And notice, Golden Gate is fine. The property investors are fine. Everyone in this room got paid. The only one carrying the anvil is the restaurant. So there's loop one, and I need you to hold it. Red Lobster was doomed the day it was sold, 9 years before the shrimp. Everything after this is just the anvil getting heavier. The only question left is what dropped it. Now stack the timing, because this is where it gets cruel. All through the late 2010s, casual dining in America is softening. Fast casual, your Chipotles, your Panaras, is eating the middle. Then 2020 hits, and a sit-down seafood chain that lives on people coming in to eat gets exactly the pandemic it did not need. Revenue wobbles. Customers thin out. And that rent? The rent does not care. The rent goes up 2%. Then up 2% again. By 2023, Red Lobster's bankruptcy filing later laid it out in black and white. The rent bill had ballooned to nearly $200 million a year, roughly 10% of the company's entire revenue, and a full third of that was being spent on stores that were losing money. Personify that number. 1 in every $10 that walked through the door, every biscuit, every plate, every kid's meal, didn't go to food, or to staff, or to the company. It went straight back out the door to a landlord for buildings the company used to own free and clear. A chain that once printed money now had to sprint just to stand still. So let me re-ask the question, because we're halfway and the mystery just changed shape. Red Lobster is renting itself to death. It desperately needs volume, bodies in seats, fast, and that, right there, is the opening. Because there was one owner in the building who had a very particular way to drive volume, and a very particular reason to want it. Which brings us to the second loot. And honestly, this one is the darker one. Meet Thai Union, one of the biggest seafood companies on the planet, a Thailand-based giant that catches, processes, and sells shrimp to restaurants all over the world, including, for years, to Red Lobster. Now watch what happens. In 2016, Thai Union buys a 25% stake in Red Lobster for about $575 million. A supplier buying a piece of its own customer, unusual, but fine. Then, in 2020, it goes further. It leads a buyout and pushes its stake up to roughly 49%, effectively taking control of the company. Say it plainly, because it's the hinge of the entire case. The company's biggest owner was also the company it bought its shrimp from. That is a conflict of interest with a body count. Because think about what those two hats want. As the owner, you want Red Lobster to be profitable, but as the shrimp supplier, you make money every time Red Lobster buys more shrimp, whether or not the restaurant makes a single dime selling it. Personify it one more time. You own a lemonade stand. Your business partner also happens to be the only guy who sells you lemons. Are you really sure his advice about just make way more lemonade is about the stand? Or is it about the lemons? Hold that thought. Loop 3 is officially open. Why would an owner ever design a promotion that's guaranteed to lose money? We are about to find out. And the answer is the reason we're even making this video. Ultimate endless shrimp. All you can eat shrimp. Red Lobster had run it for 20 years, but always as a limited time thing, a few weeks a year, a promo to pull people in. It worked because it was rare. In June 2023, that changed. Somebody decided to make endless shrimp a permanent, everyday menu item. $20, unlimited. And America ate. People did exactly what you would do. They sat down, paid $20, and grazed for hours, plate after plate after plate, ordering almost nothing else. The math was never survivable. Red Lobster's own chief financial officer admitted it flatly. It didn't work. In a single quarter, the third quarter of 2023, the promotion helped drive an operating loss of over $11 million, with the company then bracing for a $20 million loss for the year. And there's the frame I promised you at the very start. Look at that table. The restaurant is losing $11 million a quarter. But somebody is selling all that shrimp. And who owned the shrimp company? The same people who owned Red Lobster. Now, for 2 years, endless shrimp was a dumb mistake was the whole story. Then, in 2026, the story cracked wide open because Red Lobster's own creditors, the people it owes money to, filed a lawsuit. And the allegations are the darkest turn in this whole thing. The suit claims the endless shrimp deal wasn't a well-meaning promo that backfired. It claims it was engineered. That a chief executive installed by Thai Union, along with Thai Union itself, pushed the everyday $20 ultimate endless shrimp through, over the objections of Red Lobster's own people, later describing the result as a car crash. But it goes further. The lawsuit alleges the same executive eliminated 2 of Red Lobster's other breaded shrimp suppliers, leaving Thai Union as the exclusive shrimp source, selling to Red Lobster at what the suit calls inflated prices. Put the whole machine together and it stops looking like a blunder and starts looking like a pump. Underprice the shrimp buffet so customers flood in. Force the restaurant to buy all that shrimp from the one supplier, you, at inflated prices. The restaurant books the loss. The supplier books the sale. And the supplier and the owner are the same company. The promotion didn't fail. It did exactly what it was built to do. It just wasn't built for Red Lobster. Thai Union, for the record, denies all of it. That is for a court to decide, but the machine is on paper now. So here's the whole trap closing at once. Rent eating 10% of revenue. A permanent shrimp promotion bleeding tens of millions. A supplier owner with every reason to keep the tap running. And casual dining shrinking underneath all of it. In January 2024, Thai Union takes a non-cash write-down on its Red Lobster investment of roughly $530 million and announces it wants out. 4 months later, in May 2024, Red Lobster files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Personify the wreck. At filing, about $294 million in debt, around 650 restaurants left, down from that proud 700 plus. It had already shuttered 93 locations just days before and asked the court to let it walk away from over 100 more leases. Those same above-market leases from 2014, still clinging on 10 years later. So, the question you've been holding since the very first minute. What actually killed Red Lobster? Here's the verdict. 2 owners, 2 loots, 1 victim. Golden Gate took the real estate, sold the buildings, kept the cash, left the rent. Thai Union took the shrimp margin, owned the customer, sold it the product, allegedly designed the deal that moved the most of it. Both got paid. Red Lobster absorbed both losses. And the shrimp, the thing you clicked on, the thing everybody blames, was never the killer. It was just the last knife, held by the hand that also signed the paychecks. That's loop 1, closed. It was never a speed problem, and it was never a shrimp problem. It was an ownership problem. Red Lobster didn't die. In September 2024, it came out of bankruptcy, owned by Fortress Investment Group and its partners, slimmed to 545 restaurants, with a new 35-year-old chief executive named Damola Ademolekhun. Smaller, lighter, actually trying. The cheddar biscuits survived, but the real reckoning is the lawsuit. Because for the first time, the victim is the one talking. Red Lobster's own side is now standing in a courtroom saying what this video just said. The endless shrimp wasn't a mistake. It was a mechanism, and the people who built it were the people who owned the place. So here's the honest lesson, and it's got nothing to do with shrimp. Red Lobster didn't die of greed for shrimp. It died because the people who owned it made more money when it lost than when it won. Watch for that one everywhere, because it is never, ever just about the shrimp. If you're new here, welcome to the arena. This whole channel does one thing. The autopsy the news won't run. Not a beloved brand had a rough year. Who held the knife? If that is your kind of thing, subscribe. It genuinely helps a small channel take on the big fake ones. Next episode, we put two giants in the arena and ask who'd actually survive a price war to the death. And it is not who you'd guess. And tell me in the comments, did you ever do the endless shrimp? Be honest. Comment the word shrimp and tell me how many plates. I am reading everyone. Every empire booms. Most go bust. This one did both, and somebody got paid either way.